Last time I didn't even tell you that. Hey, he went off. Oh, somewhere. Oh, well, what is going on now? We don't know. Find out now. Elliot! Okay. Joel! Elliot! No, 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 no. Liam! What? What is this? Real? Joel! It's out there fighting to get him. Okay. Hey, what you do? Hey! Got me! Got me! Got me! Got me! Help! 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 Help me! If you... Okay, stop. Okay. Oh. F you. Ah! Ow! I hate you, Mia. Sometimes I just really hate you. Jeez Louise, all I did was trying to get this dream over and done with. And he just started to take me up. Hey, will you calm down? You acting all sorts of weird today. Like something's happening here, which it shouldn't be. You need to calm down. I am calm. It's just a stupid thing. You obviously are not calm. Oh, no sign so you need this to calm you down. I can't even press it. Pressing. There you go. How the hell? Why? Why?
Ryan woke to the sound of a snoring cyan Pegasus buried in his armpit.
Beauty, that must be smell. There's the rest of my life.
The warm colors of the dawn painted a gorgeous. Rising slowly,
Yes, that's all.
he stood and stretched. He brushed off the sand that clung to him as best he could. Popping his neck, he walked toward the shore. Nature was calling, and he needed to take care of business.
Yeah.
He entered the woods, and an unfamiliar tingling sense came over him. It was magic. A fine, prickly feeling covered his entire body, just enough as to make the little hair on the back of his neck stand up. This forest emanated magic. He'd felt it before. The first time he was brought through the portal. Standing there in awe, he nearly forgot what he was there for.
Oh, I need to take a piss.
Back to where he'd spent the night to see Dashy still asleep and still snoring.
Good.
Kneeling down next to her, he set a hand on her shoulder, giving it a gentle shake, only wanting to wake her, not scare her. Brian leaned in close. Dash.
Dash.
Come on, it's time to get up.
Yeah, wake up.
She stopped snoring, groaned, and cracked open one eye. And for the briefest of moments, it looked as though Dashy didn't recognize her. Then it was gone, and Dash opened her eyes fully and smiled. Good morning. Dash brought a hoof up to her muzzle and scrunched up her face, gently pushing her father away with her other foreleg.
Ow! Don't brush your teeth. You have dad breath.
Brian leaned back, cupped his hands over his mouth, puffed into them, and sniffed, then recoiled a little from the morning breath that greeted him.
Yeah.
That is pretty rank. Dash laughed and stood up, stretched out her wings and legs. Then she shook off the sand that had covered her coat and trotted off to the woods. Brian looked more closely at the clearing Dash had pointed out the night before, then began to make his way around the lake, staying on the beach. He had walked no more than 50 meters when Dash flew up alongside him, slowing herself to match his pace. Brian rubbed his upper arms The morning air was chilly to him.
Dash, I've been thinking, and I feel it's for the best that we keep me a secret. You can't tell anyone I'm here. I don't want to get either of us in trouble with Celestia.
I was thinking the same thing, Pops. Will we ever let them know you're here?
I imagine so. In time, sure. But for now...
Dash nodded in confirmation. They walked for a minute in silence. The only sounds were the birds chirping their morning songs, the footfalls in the soft sand, and the gentle beating of Dashie's wings.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sure.
What's on your mind?
Dashie paused a moment to gather her thoughts.
Why did you wait so long? Didn't you want to be together? You know, as a family?
Yeah.
Brian pondered for a moment and then responded in a warm, fatherly tone.
Why did I wait so long? Well, it was a big decision for me. I had to be certain that this was the best thing for you, and to a lesser extent, me. I was leaving everything behind. Our house, my job, my whole life was back there. And I didn't want to have to deal with Celestia either. She creeps me out, to be honest.
Brian
Yeah, me too. She creeps me out, man.
But as time went on, I began to realize that without you in my life, well, my life wasn't complete. I wasn't whole. Does that make any sense?
Dash looked intently at her pops, and then nodded, mostly to herself.
More than you can know.
She thought to herself. She fully understood what he meant. For her, without him in her life, she wasn't whole either. It was their mutual connection that caused one to suffer in the absence of the other. Perhaps it was a byproduct of the magic that had brought her to him in the beginning. Perhaps it was just good old human instinct to care and love for the young that so deeply bound him to her. Neither would ever really know for sure. What they did know was that they were each a part of the other. For the two of them to be separated, truly separated, was for each to be unwhole.
And after a few weeks, I made my decision. I had to be brave, and to heck with the consequences.
To heck with the consequences.
Took care of a few loose ends, grabbed Grandma's painting, and walked through the portal.
Stopping to look at the lake, a thought struck him.
Is that water safe to drink?
Yeah, I think so. I've swum in it before, and I've swallowed tons of it. Nothing bad ever happened. And you don't want to go too far into the Everfree Forest, if you don't have to. There's a lot of dangerous things that live in there. Manticores, cockatrices, timberwolves, all kinds of dangerous stuff. And those blue flowers, they're really pretty, but if you touch them, wild stuff can happen to you.
Wild stuff? Why?
Brian had already begun thinking about how
Me
he
get
was
your
to build his new home.
squeaky voice.
How large should it be? How many rooms would it need? How big is the kitchen going to need to be?
Yeah, I did have a squeaky voice when we called the out. Oh, what?
These thoughts bounced around in his head as they continued walking towards the clearing. The clearing was not a large area, about a 7 by 10 meter oval of saplings and low scrub brush. The big branches from the nearby trees that hung over the clearing were thick, full, and heavy. It was a safe place to build a log cabin, close to the lake and difficult to see from the air. If he had to hide out, this would be a perfect place to do it. But ideally, he hoped it wouldn't come to that. However, this was Equestria, and bizarre events are kind of commonplace, not to mention having to keep a low profile from the princesses. Surveying the area, the two of them began to plan out Brian's new home. All the while, he emphasized the need to keep his presence a secret. Now that the portal to Earth was closed, he didn't want to have to spend the remainder of his days in a dungeon, or worse, medieval torture chamber having an experiment of dubious scientific knowledge performed on him.
Hey, you are crazy! I am not crazy.
Convinced as to other ponies' intentions.
Whatever you
Information
say.
about the human world
That
his
is
head
still
could unintentionally
crazy.
make him a state
And you're
secret,
still
or worse,
cute.
a threat to national security.
Aw.
Call it paranoia
Hey.
or human cynicism, but
Do you
he planned to stay out of sight for the time being.
You're going to
Yeah.
love living here.
What's going on?
I think I already knew that.
I don't know.
Taking a small branch, he began to draw a simple outline in the sand of what he wanted the cabin to look like. A simple rectangular structure, deeper than it was wide.
So
Drawing out
what's
one bedroom,
going
and he marked with the letter
on?
B. He outlined where
What
the
do you
kitchen,
think is
bathroom,
going
and living room would
on?
go. Dash
I don't
landed and
know.
moved it over carefully.
It's like
She took the stick
so
from his hand in
weird.
her mouth and added a second bedroom, wrote RD in it,
Real
and
number.
changed the arrangement of the kitchen to the
He
living room.
can't be real.
Brian studied the changes she had
He?
made and nodded in approval.
Neither.
After a moment more of studying the new arrangement,
He
he
can't be
smiled.
real.
It looked an awful lot like their old home
Dead,
on
like
Earth.
I said. Dead.
Yeah, I think that'll do just fine.
Hey.
Now the work could begin. Clapping his hands together with a pop, his eyes grew wide and he took a deep breath.
What?
He prepared himself for the task that lay ahead.
Guys, I'm listening.
We need some tools.
I thought I'm the one that's supposed to come here.
Nails and a level. Maybe a saw.
Yeah. Every.
Seeing her opportunity to lend a hand, or hoof,
Yeah.
I can take care of that. And breakfast. I'll be right back. Don't run off or anything.
Run off? What am I, a dog?
Dash rolled her eyes at him and told him to just stay on the beach until she returned. She took flight and headed towards what he figured would be
What's
Ponyville.
going on?
Brian watched her fly off. Then, turning back to his sand drawing, he took stock of the project that lay ahead of him. He was no carpenter, not by a long shot. A wood butcher would be more accurate. He felt a little out of his league trying to build a log cabin that he could live in. But this was to be his home for the time being. He was ready and willing to give it his best to see that happen.
Well, this thing isn't going to build itself.
Yeah, better get to
Pushing his
work.
sleeves up over his elbows,
Yeah.
Brian began to clear
Yeah.
brush and pull up the smallest trees in the clearing.
Yeah.
He was no stranger to hard
What's
work.
wrong with
but
you?
This job
You're acting
had an
crazy as
excitement
me,
about it. He
apparently.
was thoroughly enjoying
Crazy?
it.
Oh no,
His
I'm not
mind's eye
crazy.
envisioned exactly how every aspect of the cabin would be. All that remained now,
Yeah, you're definitely crazy.
his
Sure,
mind
I'm not
wandered as he
crazy.
worked, and the reality of being in Equestria finally began to set in. He was in a completely new world. No debt, no obligations, no responsibilities. And he was building a hideout in the ever-free forest. A goofy smile crossed his face as he thought about the whole situation. He was here with his daughter, and it made him immensely happy. More importantly, his life made sense again. Flying over Ponyville, Dash had a wide smile that reflected her inner joy. Her father was home now, and she could hardly contain her
These
excitement
guys
about
are
that
staring
fact.
at the weirdly now, are you
From
too?
above, she watched
What's
the
going
boys going
on?
about town, starting their day, opening up their shops
Cause
and
you
kiosks.
did.
Movement in the morning sky caught Applejack's attention. Looking up, she saw Rainbow Dash flying overhead, and she waved good morning to her friend. Rainbow
What are
saw
you?
Applejack
Why are you
below,
staring
waving
at
back.
me?
Dash
Why are
returned the
everyone
wave and
staring
flew
at
out
me
the
like
hardware
that?
store.
It's so
As she
creepy.
landed, a cold, tingling feeling started to spread across her
Do you
head.
guys
Then
remember
quite
me?
suddenly, her mind convulsed and
Why?
reeled. She felt as though she had
Cute
started to fall while her body
guy.
went rigid for a moment, and a faraway look crossed her face.
Why you looking
She
at
all at
that?
once didn't know why she had come to
I don't
town.
know. What does it feel like
She
it?
looked around, wondering
Since
to
you
herself,
started
why
recording
in
it with it
Equestria did she come to the
yesterday.
hardware store? And more
Oh yeah, I
importantly,
did record
why
with
was she
it.
awake so early?
Why did you
She stared at the
record
storefront
us?
for a moment, trying to recall how she'd arrived there.
What's
When nothing came
reaction?
to mind, she shrugged to herself, opened her wings to take off,
You
but
know
her
you
body
just
went rigid, and her mind started to reel and flip again. The
contradicted
tingling was less
yourself.
intense, and then she could
Oh
remember.
no.
Oh yeah, Dad needs tools. Duh. I must need coffee or something.
Feelings of confusion and mild disorientation lingered in her mind. Shaking them off, she entered the shop and set about getting the tools her pops had mentioned. The storekeeper asked her if she was taking up a new hobby as she paid for her items. She jokingly said that she was, and quickly made her way out. Dash took to the air and turned towards the market to look for breakfast. Darting low overhead, a rainbow trail etched its way through the calm morning air. Ponies busied themselves with shopping or chatting over coffee. The scent of their coffee reached Dash and brought to her mind her dad making it in the morning and how wonderful it made the kitchen smell. She fondly recalled when she was little how he'd bang around the kitchen first thing in the morning, trying to focus on getting her breakfast. She smiled to herself about the times he'd put the coffee pot in the fridge instead of the milk jug that was in his other hand. As a child, it almost always made her laugh. Landing in the edibles section of the market, Dash looked around for things that Pops would like. Apples, carrots, some nice fat grapes, more apples,
Dad likes apples, I think.
and a small block of smelly white cheese. He had always maintained that if it didn't smell like a dirty sock, it wasn't good cheese. Dash never agreed with that notion. She felt that if it smelled that bad, it should be thrown out. Even so, he seemed to like it, so she added it to her purchases. She scooped up some oats from the bulk bin into a bag and picked out a yummy-looking bundle of hay for herself, paid for the lot, and started to head for home. As she was trotting along, testing the weight of her saddlebags and gauging her new flight dynamics, she slowed her pace until she had stopped. A confused look began to form on her face. She stiffened and her mind reeled and flickered again, as though someone had turned on a strobe light in her mind. She blinked a few times and relaxed. The weight of her saddlebags caused her to look down in confusion and studied all the food that she had just purchased. The situation was wrong. She couldn't remember coming to the market or buying any of the food in her bags. Her mind raced with
This
questions
guy is
because
confusing!
none of it added up.
Okay.
What am I doing? I don't even like this kind of cheese. Ugh! Sweet Celestia. Smells like vomit and sweat socks.
She couldn't recall why she needed so much, and what in the world did she need an axe and a hammer for?
Have time!
Make sense of
What?
she was saying.
No!
Did you forget
Oop.
something there, Sugar Cube?
Dash looked up and to her right and saw Applejack walking towards her. Her mouth opened to speak when her mind twisted and clicked. For a moment, she was dazed and confused. Her mind began to clear and the situation began to make sense again.
Oh yeah, all this is for Dad. I so need to get my head screwed on straight.
Mentally reeling a bit from the confusion, she put on her game face.
Hey AJ. Nah, I didn't forget anything.
Dash was still trying to recover her sense of things.
Just play it cool, RD. We can get through this.
Applejack held a look of worry on her face
Very
as she
cool.
drew closer to her friend.
You guys
Well,
are
you looked a lot confused there for a moment. Everything okay?
I'm good.
Without giving AJ the chance to respond, Dash popped open her wings and took off.
See you later, AJ. I gotta get going.
Yeah, see, we go, okay?
Applejack waved her goodbye as Dash rose into the sky and faded into the distance. Shaking her head,
that's
Applejack walked back to her stand and wondered, what was up with Rainbow Dash? Dash flew on towards the lake, taking a wide, arcing path around Ponyville, hoping it didn't look like she was actually heading directly to her pops. An unsettling feeling persisted in her mind, though. How come she'd forgotten why she'd gone to the market? She could remember why she was there now, but at that moment it was completely missing.
What the hey is happening?
She shook off the errant feelings and headed to her dad's.
Oh, the memory style! It's a side effect of the memory style! You think you forget about it, that's right. I don't remember it again. Forget? Remember. This is just gonna be a favor, isn't it?
He stopped his deforestation efforts and helped Dash unload her purchases. Examining the tools, he smiled with satisfaction. She pondered the idea of telling him what had happened, but believed that the risk to his safety would be too high. She would not be responsible for him being taken away if she could at all help it.
Yeah, these will do great. Thanks, Dash.
Pulling out his wallet, Brian stopped.
Dash, I can't pay you for these right now.
Holding out a $20 bill to her, Dashy smiled.
Why did you bring cash?
Well, force of habit, really.
It's not gonna do you any good here.
Sheepishly, Brian returned the currency to his wallet.
Don't worry, Pops. I got you covered. Look, you paid my way back home, and now you're in my world. Let me treat you for a change.
Taking a bite of apple, she offered him one as well. Taking the offered fruit, he sat on the ground and with just a bit of wonder stared at the apple in his hand. The look on his face was as if he'd never seen an apple before. Staring at it, he realized that this would be the first equestrian food he would ever eat. He wondered if he could even eat the food here. Would it provide what he needed, like food from back home? What would he do if he wasn't able to derive any nutrients from it? What if fruits and vegetables were poisonous to him?
Poison!
He thought.
Well, when in Rome.
Slowly, he brought the apple to his mouth and took a juicy, crunchy bite. It tasted amazing.
Well, Pops, what you think? Pretty good, huh?
Oh,
Dad,
does that
this is
feel?
amazing. Seriously, this is probably the best apple I've ever had. And I don't like apples that much.
Yeah, all the food here is like that. Better get used to it.
He finished eating his apple and grabbed another. He continued to be amazed at how delicious it was.
Why is everything so delicious?
Stared at
It's
it
like a dream.
into his mouth, crisp
Dream.
and juicy. Then, a familiar smell hit his nose.
Smells like stinky foot cheese.
Stinky foot cheese.
Digging into the bag of groceries to retrieve his precious cheese.
Just the way you like it.
I'm gonna get fat if everything is this good.
Cheese.
Some fruit?
Just wait until you try Pinkie Pie's treats. They're freaking awesome. If anything makes you fat, it'll be those.
Yeah. Pretty much you can go eat. What?
Would they run screaming in fright?
Ow!
Perhaps they'd be more
Stop hitting now! No,
not likely,
don't.
seeing how given they are to fits of panic
What?
and the slightest of provocation.
You know he
The
stabbed.
prospect of meeting all their friends, both excited and frightened,
I.
would get back to Celestia.
Oi!
Then who knows what would happen. He started to imagine being chased like an animal by hordes of the Royal Guard, being
What?
arrested, then sent to some dark dungeon and rotting
Dad?
there all alone,
Two.
all under the auspices of keeping the purity of Equestria.
Take home.
Putting these thoughts away, he continued eating.
Little.
Brian pondered as he ate.
The reason that the food tasted so good may be because of the innate magic that permeated their world. I wonder if I can do magic here. If I ever have the chance, I bet I could ask Twilight about that.
Once Dash had finished eating, she walked to the lake and noisily drank. When she was done, she turned back to her father.
I have to head to work. You'll be okay without me for a while, right?
Looking over to her, he swallowed the last of the food in his mouth.
Of course I will. Go on, head back to work. I'll be fine here. I have lots to do.
He looked back to the patch of ground that he'd been working with, again envisioning what his cabin would look like, and more importantly, how he was going to build it.
All right, then. I'll be back tonight.
Dash flew over to him and gave him a peck on the cheek. Brian patted her on the shoulder and told her that he loved her.
Love you too, Pops.
Hefting up his axe, Brian felt the weight and tested the blade. It was nice and sharp.
Good. If anything comes out of the woods after me, at least I'll have this to defend myself with.
Continued his
Ow! I don't care if I'm scared. You still get scared. Yeah? Okay. Those are, yeah.
She landed amidst the cheers, hoots, and hollers of Pegasus that had the privilege to witness her aerial prowess.
Look at me,
The
look at me.
assistant crack of the mic and a pedantic voice started droning on about some weather-related wonder. It fell on deaf ears mostly.
More health and safety crap again.
He moved off the landing area and headed towards the more crowded main office.
Exactly.
Like a choreographed dance,
Oh,
other
exactly.
Pegasi landed noisily
Where you go?
behind her and
Ow.
quickly ran off to their various destinations. All the noise, commotion, and even the smells of the WMMO were a welcome sight and sound to her. It was a subtle sign to her that all was right with the world. Greeting the other workers warmly, she popped her head into the shift manager's office and told her that she had returned to work. Dash clocked in and snatched a worksheet off the rack. Looking it over, she quietly grunted to herself.
Word up! Ah! 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 Never mind this toilet. What should you do? What is this? I'm only gonna wake you up. Elliot! What? Dale? No, it's me! Stu! Oh. You have to kind of weird today, aren't you? It is no will. What's that? No. Please.
She arranged the rainstorms and even managed to take care of the fog bank. Catching up on 3 days of cloud busting left her exhausted by day's end. As her day was nearly over, she approached the last collection of white cotton-like fluff, and she quickly came to a stop in midair. In her mind, everything became confusing and fuzzy. A tingling sensation spread across her head. Her mind twisted and reeled. The safe and familiar became threatening and strange.
What am I doing up here?
She looked around a moment, confused and unable to say for certain why she was there. Slowly, she scanned the ground below, looking for a familiar landmark. Nothing seemed known to her. She couldn't recognize the terrain below, and she began to feel very far from home. She had no idea what she was doing or why she was there, and that began to terrify her. All she wanted now was to get somewhere safe. Nearly in a panic, she dived towards the ground, clearing the lower edge of the cloud bank. She caught sight of Ponyville. This caused her to stop in mid-flight.
No, this can't be real. How can I be here?
Her mind raced to figure out what was happening.
What?
Where's Dad? Am I really on the cartoon? This has to be a dream.
The rising terror in her
What's
caused
going
tears to
on?
flow.
What's going on? What's going on?
Hard to concentrate. She needed to find home, to get away from this place. Primal instincts began to take over, and she raced around for a few moments looking for something, anything familiar. Then, all at once it stopped. She began to get stiff. Her head felt tingly again, and then her mind pitched, and for a moment, it felt like it untwisted. Her terror faded, and she remembered what it was she was supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Slowly, she calmed down.
What is wrong with this guy?
What the heck is going on? Why can't I remember? What's wrong with me?
Shaking off the last of the feelings of disorientation and confusion, she turned to the last batch of clouds and finished bringing them up. Breathing a sigh of relief, she checked the sky for any clouds she may have missed. Smiling to herself at a job well done, she headed back to the WMMO. The whole flight back, her mind was in turmoil about the episode over Ponyville. Landing at work, she made her way to the employee area and signed off on the work order she'd completed, filled out her time card, and grabbed the worksheet for the following day.
Yeah.
She walked down the hallway to the departure area, studying her work order. A large blue Pegasus stallion sat down on the landing gantry ahead of her. Taking off his flight goggles, he heartily greeted Rainbow. Looking up, she recognized him. His name was Thundercharge. A good worker, in her opinion. Maybe not the fastest around, but he could work circles around most without a break. Hey, Rainbow, good work out there today.
You sound so sarcastic.
Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost.
No, I'm good, Thunder. Just
Yeah.
tired.
Who got a call?
3 days.
Ghostbusters! Nah, 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 nah.
Well, try to get some rest tonight if you can. Rainbow opened her mouth to respond as her mind flipped and twisted again. She staggered a moment and blinked. Looking around, she caught sight of Thundercharge and gasped. Her mind raced to identify the creature that was standing in front of her.
Oh!
It looked
That's
in form, but it appeared to be a male.
What's going on? What's
She
going on?
wasn't clear on what he wanted or why he seemed to be talking to her. Her heart began to pound in her chest as the first wave of a panic attack hit her.
Hey, are you sure
Stay away from me!
What is happening
Take
there?
off in landing areas screaming for her father.
Cuckoo,
Several other Pegasi stared at her as she ran down the gantry. Without waiting for the signal crew to give her clearance, she took flight. A short, heavy-set Pegasus in a generic off-the-rack white shirt ran out of an office to see what all the commotion was about. Thunder stood there with a dumbfounded expression, staring after Rainbow Dash.
You right there?
The supervisor looked up at the stallion and asked what the heck had just happened.
What?
I don't know. 1 second Rainbow Dash and I were just talking, and the next she's freaking out and screaming at me to stay away. Then she flew off.
Like,
Rainbow Dash did that?
The super seemed surprised and looked out into the sky where Dash had flown off to. She was one of, if not the best cloudbuster he had. In all the years that she had worked for him, she had never behaved like this. Sure, she might overreact at times and was cocky. All the cloudbusters tended to be. In this line of work, you had to have a little attitude. But this was way outside her normal behavior.
yeah, what's going on? What's going on? What's
Daily
going on?
report. On OD? No way. She'd walk the floor with me.
Okay, then.
Get back to work.
The super walked back to his office, shaking his head. This was the last thing he needed right now. He hated drama. It was bad for the bottom line.
I love drama. It makes everything more exciting.
Breakneck speed. She flew high into the air so she could see anyone approaching. She half expected to wake up from a nightmare.
Where the hell am I?
Her panic attack, in full swing now, caused her to start breathing heavily. She broke down and cried. All she could think about now was finding her daddy. He would know what was wrong and how to fix it. He always knew how to make everything better. He was always there for her. Trying to recall where her father was, her mind kept going blank. One moment she could almost bring his location to mind, and then it would vanish as though someone had plucked it out of her head. Thinking back, she tried to recall the last thing she could. Slowly, she started to get fragments of the past, but she wasn't sure if they were hers or a movie she'd seen. A fog in her mind began to clear a little, and she remembered their living room. Her father was there, and he was crying. There were other ponies there, a white one, a bright pink one, and they had come to take her away.
No!
She had let them take her away. Let them take her from her home, and more importantly, her father. Struggling to piece together what had happened afterwards, she closed her eyes tightly.
Why does everything reach back to the father so
Long ago, or
so
yet
annoying?
she couldn't say for sure. Began to surface in her
Yeah.
mind about that day. That horrible day when they had arrived. The big one, with a kind voice, said she had to leave, and her father wept, telling her that he loved her. Dash's heart broke, seeing his face twisted in torment. She wanted to reach out and hold him, to comfort him. The memories began to fade, and Dash tried harder to recall what had happened. The purple one had approached her. The horn on her head was glowing brightly, and Dash wasn't sure what was about to happen. Then there was a bright flash, and she was... Rainbow Dash blinked several times and stared out into the sky, unsure of what she was doing, or why she was hovering in midair. Looking around, and then down, she saw Ponyville below. Drawing in her wings, she gracefully dived towards the town. Falling for a few moments, she smiled at the speed and the feeling of being in control. Unfurling her wings, she slowed her descent and effortlessly did a barrel roll. She relished the feeling.
Do a barrel! Ah!
Got to her.
Stop doing that!
Days, she discovered
Yeah,
that
stop
into
doing
herself.
that, man.
Pink moved
Hey,
across her
you
neck.
scared Elliot.
Standing on her bedroom windowsill,
Thanks,
Pinkie
Scoob.
Pie waved excitedly at Rainbow Dash. Dash could just make out Pinkie Pie's voice calling out to her.
Rainbow
Pinkie
Dash!
to the ground. Excitedly, she continued to wave and called out to her again.
Rainbow Dash!
Dash caught sight of her friend and banked around and headed towards Pinkie Pie's home. Pinkie Pie backed into a room above Sugar Cube Corner as Dash landed with a delicate thud on the windowsill.
Hi, Dashy!
Pinkie Pie's expression softened as she began to realize that Rainbow Dash wasn't right. Then she asked what she felt was a very important question.
Are you okay?
Dashy's answer was both the honest truth and a lie.
Yeah, why wouldn't I be?
Pinkie eyed Dashy for a moment and then laughed.
Okay then, silly. You just looked really out there for a second. No way. I'm as good as it gets. Though I think I had a long day at work today.
Dash went taut, and she felt the twisting in her mind and silently
There
cried.
we go again!
A moment later, she blinked a few times,
Mm.
relaxed, and stared at Pinkie Pie, trying to piece together in her mind what was going on and where she was this time. She focused on what she could.
What is
Okay.
going on?
I'm at Pinkie's. I can remember Ponyville and Dad. Okay, good. I think I'll be alright. Play it cool. Everything will be fine.
Pinkie stared at her friend, and a knowing began to form in her fluffy cotton candy mind. Not letting on that she was suspicious, Pinkie warmly welcomed Rainbow Dash into her room.
Come
The
on.
two talked
Michael.
briefly about cloud busting and how the twins were getting along.
Here we go. Go!
Rainbow Dash
Cloud Busters!
maybe she needed to talk to somebody about what was happening to her. She hated the idea of openly discussing this problem, this weakness. This was bigger than her, and she didn't know what she could do. Maybe Pinkie Pie could help her understand what was happening. Pinkie rattled
What's
on
this
about how she
going
had a
on with
conversation
me?
with a butterfly that morning, and how it wouldn't laugh at any of her jokes.
I knew you would start with me about the fiasco with the balloon.
Gathering her courage, Rainbow Dash waited until Pinkie Pie had to stop to take a breath. A feat that seemed to take far longer than any normal pony should.
Maybe she can breathe and speak at the same time.
When Pinkie Pie finally did stop for a moment, Rainbow Dash quietly asked Pinkie a very pointed question.
Have you ever forgotten someone?
Dashy's rose eyes
Yeah.
scanned Pinkie's face for any telltale signs of what she might be thinking. Pinkie blinked at Rainbow Dash, tilting her head to one side, and then her eyes grew wider.
You
than
mean
usual.
like
The
this?
understanding in her mind that had started when Rainbow Dash first arrived grew and then clicked into place.
Bing.
The awkward silence
You
began to
like
make
that?
Rainbow Dash feel as though she shouldn't have asked the question.
Yeah.
Pinkie Pie's answer couldn't have stunned Dash more if she'd claimed to have invented the question mark.
Like the way you keep forgetting your Earth Dad? And by Earth Dad, I mean...
Pinkie Pie looked from side to side as if she was checking for someone who might be listening in on the secret. She leaned closer and whispered,
Your human father.
Pinkie blinked again and smiled, almost proud of her answer. Rainbow sat in shock. Her mind raced to sort out and come to terms with what Pinkie had just said.
What? You keep forgetting your Earth Dad and the time you spent there. What's his name, anyway? Then other times you can't remember your life here. It makes you really sad, and that makes me sad that you're sad, and I don't want you to be sad, and I don't want to be sad that you're sad.
Pinkie stopped
Hey,
talking.
you are so wild there. I thought you should have told you.
Slowly, the tears in her eyes a mute witness to how upset she'd become upon hearing Pinkie's explanation.
How could you know that? Oh, that's easy. I walked into my room and I heard someone say, no! And I ran to the window and looked outside to see who it was. And it was you, way up in the sky. You were trying to remember what happened on a really bad day. Then you looked like you didn't want to be there. Or here. I don't know which. And you couldn't remember us and got really scared, and that made me scared for you. Then you went home.
Pinkie Pie's eyes looked left and right at the same time, and her tongue hung limply out of the corner of her mouth.
But then you could remember us, but not your Earth Dad. That's when you started to fly to town, and I started to wave at you so I could try and cheer you up, because you were really, really sad that you keep forgetting. But you don't always know that you are sad. And to top it all off, you don't know why any of this is happening to you.
Rainbow Dash stared at Pinkie in shock, unsure if she should run away or hug her. Unsure what to do, Rainbow Dash slowly let herself to the floor, overwhelmed by what she had just heard. Pinkie looked at her friend with a soft and caring expression.
Dashy, you need to tell Twilight what's happening. She can help you with all of her weirdo unicorn magic. No, Pinkie Pie, I can't.
Yeah.
If you don't, you can't get better. You don't want to be like this forever.
sure Dad is here.
Dash's eyes went wide, and she leapt across the room, landing on Pinkie Pie, pinning her.
Ah! How do you know?
Pinkie Pie, you can never tell anyone that, ever.
Pinkie Pie looked at Rainbow Dash, and for the first time since meeting her all those years ago, she felt a little afraid. She had seen Dash behave in all manner of ways, but this was different on a whole new level. Dash was dead serious.
Okay, Dashy. I won't. Pinkie, promise?
Pinkie Pie smiled and recited her oath of eternal mum's the word. Satisfied that she would keep silent, Rainbow Dash let Pinkie Pie up. Walking to the window, Rainbow Dash sat down with a thud, looked out over Ponyville and sighed. Pinkie slowly walked over and sat next to her friend.
Yeah.
Together, they sat in silence, watching the long shadows of evening crawl across the town. A light breeze blew in through the window, carrying with it the sweet smells of a summer evening. A stillness echoed in Pinkie's room as Dash gathered her thoughts, trying to analyze what she knew and put everything in some sense of order.
Yeah.
She brought to mind all of the events of her life, or from her perspective, lives, both on Earth and in Equestria, in hopes that she could in some way use these to keep herself as she was at that moment. Every time she shifted, she was robbed of one set of memories or the other. Sometimes her life on Earth was missing, and other times her life in Equestria was removed. Most times she was able to recall both lives, and seemed to have no issues telling the difference between the two. Dash pondered why this was happening, what could cause it, and most importantly, how to fix it. Was it magic? Did she take a blow to the head and can't remember it? Maybe she had a brain tumor. Was it a poison joke relapse? A half an hour passed, and the two of them simply sat there in contemplation. Rainbow tried to make some sense of her situation, and Pinkie struggled deeply with an issue that had plagued her for years now, and on one occasion it kept her up all night.
This is crazy! Why can't I taste my tongue?
At last, Rainbow Dash turned to Pinkie. Seeing that she was deep in thought, Dash touched her on the shoulder. Pinkie refocused on her friend, and a small smile crossed her face.
Thank you, Pinkie.
No problem, Dashy. I'll always be here for you. What are
Yeah.
you going to do now?
Dash sighed and stood up on all four.
Go home, I guess. I don't know what else to do.
I hope that you find help soon, Dashy.
Pinkie's peaceful expression melted into one of sad concern for her friend. An idea started to form in the back of her mind, though. If Dash wouldn't seek help, she would seek it for her.
Me too, Pinkie Pie. Me too.
Rainbow Dash climbed onto the windowsill and took flight. She slowly climbed into the air and veered towards her cloud home. Arriving at her cloud home, she let herself in and moved with purpose from the kitchen to the linen closet and her bedroom. Grabbing blankets and pillows, she filled her saddlebags with toiletries, dishes, more food, and sundries.
Mouthwash. Can't forget mouthwash. Flavored? Sorry, Dad. It'll have to do.
She hoped she could gather everything and get back to her father before slipping into one of the other Rainbow Dashes that she kept becoming.
Maybe if it's going to happen, it should be here. I wouldn't want to freak out so bad.
She paused a moment at that thought.
Great. Now I'm starting to accept this BS.
Straightening her neck,
Yeah,
she gathered her courage.
I can't let it get the better of me.
As she loaded her bags, a quiet noise caught her attention. Unsure what it was that she had actually heard, she stopped what she was doing and listened carefully. Silence was her response. An eerie feeling crept into her head. Something was in the house with her. She could feel it. She threw her saddlebags on and made for the front door.
Where is it?
A distant shout of pain stopped her.
Don't tell me now.
A burr down her spine started to stand
Oh,
on
what are
end.
you talking about?
She turned and looked
Well,
around
you
at the
fall
empty
asleep all
house,
day.
straining to hear anything more.
I've seen enough horror movies to know this is a trap. There is
It's
no
a
way
trap!
to find out what that was.
Bolstering her courage, she moved again to the front door. Almost immediately, another cry of pain came to her ears. It was closer now, maybe even in the house. It sounded like a pony crying out in pain. Reaching the front door, she grabbed the handle in her mouth and opened it. A loud shout of anger called out, almost echoing within the walls of the entryway to her home. She froze, shaking with adrenaline and some fear. She turned around slowly to see who was screaming in her home. She saw nothing. No pony was there yelling at her. As she looked around, she was now more confused than anything.
Hello? Anyone there?
A familiar voice cried out loudly in pain, startling her badly, causing her to yelp. After a moment, she recognized the voice. It belonged to her father.
Oh, God! Dad!
Bolting out of the front door, she took to the skies and forced herself to fly as fast as she could manage. She headed straight to the lake where her father was supposed to be. A dim, beautiful rainbow trail peeled across the darkening sky. The light of day was nearly spent when the lake came into view. Much to her great relief, she saw Pops next to the lake. He appeared to be using his shirt as a towel to dry his hair. He was unharmed and there was no one else around. She began to ponder what she had heard. Thinking about it, she wasn't completely convinced that she had actually heard anything. It could have all been in her head.
Wonderful. I'm going completely bonkers.
And sir!
Hey, Dash! You're back! Brian called out, waving up to her as she landed on the sandy beach.
Hey.
He walked over to her, but before he could say or do anything, she dropped her bags to the ground and pulled her father into a tight hug.
Aw, Dashy. I'm happy to see you too.
Recovering herself, she pulled away and playfully punched him in the shoulder, smiling broadly.
Yeah, whatever. Don't go all sappy on me.
Oh, really now? Is that how things are going to be?
As he studied her more closely, her eyes said that she had had a terrible day and she was just covering. Knowing her as he did, he decided to play it off and let her be the cool one. Eager to distract herself from her ever-worsening condition, she looked at the area Pops had cleared for his cabin. He'd even dug out the earth for a foundation.
Wow, Dad, this is looking great.
It's not much yet, but tomorrow we'll start to lay the foundation, I think. Lots of good-sized rocks around here, and in the lake.
At that moment, Brian's stomach growled.
Oops, sorry about that. Think I might be hungry again.
Grabbing his belly with both hands, Brian smiled. Dash smiled in return and told him he sounded like the old coffee pot from when she was growing up. Dash walked over to her saddlebags and withdrew some of the foodstuffs she had taken from her home. She had brought pasta with white sauce, some garlic bread, and apples. Brian sat down, lit a small campfire, and began to spread out the food. Dash passed him some plates, and he portioned out servings of the food. The two of them ate mostly in silence, with the occasional smile or grunt of approval. Each had had their own difficulties that day, and neither of them felt like talking very much. After they ate, Dash unloaded the blankets and pillows. After the day he'd had, Brian was exhausted and just wanted to sleep. After hurried goodnights, they both fell asleep quickly.
Hey, don't go see a cat.
The firelight dimmed to the sound of snores and whinnying, and a pair of teal eyes on the edge of the forest appeared and watched the two. Dashy began to twitch in her sleep.
Let's just do. Yeah! Ah! That scared me. Why do you always do that? You just say, ah! 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 That's weird. You say, when you're shooting, you say, ah! 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 It's so annoying. Do that? Yes, you do. What's going on? It's like you're living two lives at once. The dream life and this one. Hey, what you dreaming about? I'm dreaming about Dell. Tell you, Dell? You think that? Yeah. What are you dreaming about him? Don't know. I want these songs that's going on. Because you guys were not something you should have. Well, guys, until we figure it out, until next time, sayonara. Bye.